Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about my Alchemy Ghost strat that I have been doing over the last week. So a lot of people have been asking what exactly I'm farming nowadays. Am I still farming the same thing as in last week? I made a video about how I made my first 100 divines. The answer is no. I made a strategy that is strictly made for fast builds. So what I mean by that is that this strat really favors fast characters. So it's for builds that aren't league starters anymore, builds that are already kind of into mapping. But without further ado, let's just jump into it right away. And if you've watched a lot of these Alchemy Go videos, you already know what's coming. The problem with the changes to loot is that there's certain mechanics that are just right now too strong not to do in a mapping scenario. At least for mapping strategies that do not revolve around getting that big loot goblin, right? It's just expedition, harvest, and essences. I guess harvest is the only thing that a lot of people are not running, but most people nowadays are running expedition and essences, and harvest has been catching on lately as well. As well as that, I'm also doing Tormented Spirits with a certain sextant. I'm gonna explain that in a second. And then I'm also doing lab trials with this one right here. We'll talk about that in a later segment as well. First up, I'm going to show you what kind of loot you can expect from this method. As for expedition, it's all about getting those logbooks and also getting exotic coinage, astragales, whatever you can work with. And basically, the more you know about the vendors, the more money you will make out of it. Currently, I am selling astragales and I'm selling scrap metal, which if you know what you're doing with ROG, you probably shouldn't. I'm not really that into gambling, especially since Gwenin has been nerfed quite a bit. But I am doing both exotic coinage and burial medallion. I'm going to talk quickly about it. So basically all I'm doing with Dandig over here is exchange items, and I'm basically going to buy all of this currency. Now the scrap metal I'm not buying anymore because it has been going down. What I'm doing is I'm buying astragales, I'm buying exotic coinages, and I am buying logbooks. What I'm doing as well is I am converting my currency into Black Scythe, which is the Tujin currency, which we're going to go into a second. So I buy these, I reroll, buy all of these, reroll, and so forth. Now, these have good conversions. Now, you don't have to buy the 0.8 ones, but you definitely want to buy the 0.5 ones. There's a logbook here. There's some astragales. Let's reroll. Scrap metals usually aren't really worth it. Now, the exceptional ones, really, really nice. Basically, everything that's Black Scythe and has a good conversion ratio, and you just do this. I'm not really buying burial medallions, but overall, if you can afford them, it is most likely worth the money, almost always, to use up all the artifacts that you get from the maps. When it comes to Tujin, a few small tricks. Number one, braid rings. A lot of people still don't know about braid rings. You can sell 60 of these to get a grasping mail back, which can be worth upwards of 4 divines. They also sell in bulk for 2 chaos each on TFT, and you will encounter them quite a bit. Other than that, I don't have too much to say. I guess basically kind of understand the market, I would say, before you go into this. Check some of these prices, right? What's a breachstone? And then kind of just do in the head. The number one thing I would say is don't overthink stuff, because the time you're taking, you could be spending in maps again. Big tip that a lot of people don't do is use scroll wheel right here. Otherwise, you're going to destroy your wrists. So for example, you can do this here, and then what I do is just like this, right? You shouldn't really be thinking about this too much. I guess one tip is fossils are actually worth quite a bit this league, in case you haven't seen yet. You shouldn't be thinking about this too much. Basically just do this, do that. When you feel like something is worth, then just do it. Scroll a little, buy it, scroll a little, buy it, right? Go, 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 go. And then you re-roll, boom. Every time spent could be spent better in a map. So this way, I feel like it's also a lot more fun. Otherwise, this can take quite a while because you're going to get a lot of exotic coinage. Now, when it comes to harvest, your currency will obviously come from these bad boys here, from the Crystallized Life Force. Now, these actually sell quite well and fast. And basically, the thing you have to know is that currently, now this might change in the future. You can kind of look this up yourself, but currently there's a hierarchy in which life force is better than the other. Now, at rank 1 are the yellow life forces, and these go for around about 5k. If you have a lot of them, you can go further down here at like 4.8k. People actually want them quite in big bulk. Now, these are number 1, so you should prioritize these. At number 2 are the red seeds, or purple seeds, or whatever you call them. They're like 5.9k if you have a lot of them, more like 5.7. And far and away, the worst in terms of price is the blue one. You can sell these for around about 7 to 7.5k depending when you're watching this. So that's kind of the hierarchy. So whenever you have the decision between two crops, choose wisely. Now, one small strat that I would really urge you to do is don't open every single harvest crop. It takes like 15 seconds, 20 seconds to actually complete an encounter, or let's say 15 seconds more like. And you see all of these Reddit threads with, I didn't get anything from this harvest crop. That is because the most important thing is that your crop has a blue mob. If that blue mob is down there, or even more than one, definitely choose that. It doesn't matter what this is. Even if it's a blue one, if it has one magic mob or blue mob or whatever that is, it's basically just a rare mob that gives more life force than the others, significantly more, and also always gives life force. Even if it's up against the yellow, if the yellow has no blue mob but the blue one has, that should always take priority. Now that being said, if for example you have one with 2 blue mobs on a yellow and 3 blue mobs on a blue, then you would still take the yellow because overall that's still more money. Also in my week of farming, I've encountered a total of, I think it was 40-ish, 45-ish bosses. They do spawn quite a bit. I'm not going to say they're that often, but in total, I've gotten 5 Sacred Blossoms. For me, the ratio is around about 1 in 10 times you actually get that Sacred Blossom. Then you can fight Oshabi, and you can get this Sacred Crystallized Life Force. You always get this one, and then you have a random unique drop. You're obviously hoping for that Shaco. Next up, let's talk about Essences, number 3. Now, Essences, despite whatever anybody will tell you, do always sell. Now, this is a running gag on my stream, actually, that whenever we do a selling session, people are going to say, essences don't sell, just prepare yourself for it. They always sell. The only thing that's happening is you're not pricing them aggressively enough. I'll tell you why that is. Now, if you think about, for example, let's say you want to sell Deafening Essence of Fears, and let's say you have like 30 plus, right? You type down here in minimum stock, you type 30. Let's get me on this side here. You search, and now you can see this here, right? You see 1.5, 1.6, 1.9. All right. So how do you sell this? Well, if you want to wait a week to sell it, you can price it at 2, like most of these people are, right? You can think, oh, maybe these guys are just price fixers or whatever. But no, that's not what you should do. You should actually undercut. And that is because it's really important to sell your stuff immediately, because otherwise you will have to later portal out of your map, which is going to be really, really annoying. If you have a headhunter, you know why that's annoying. All your buffs are gone, and usually they won't wait for you, right? They're just going to get to the next person. So it's really important that you price them in a way where they're going to be sold quickly. For example, if I price them on my stream, usually they're sold in between 10 to 20 minutes after I post them. So what would happen here is I would see this. I would probably price it around about 1.7 because these two are a lot cheaper than the other ones, and they're probably going to be sold really, really quickly. So what you do here is you look at how many you have. Now, in my case, Fear is here. Let's say these were Deafenings, right? If I converted 161. Now, what you can do is you can price them all at once, which I would usually always do, unless the Chaos price would be more than an inventory. Now, why do I not price my stuff in Divines? Well, the simple reason is that you're going to have leftovers. For example, if 40 essences for one divine, you're not going to have exactly 80, right? You're going to have like 97 or whatever. And then you have to price again. So you're going to have to do 2 trades, and it's actually quicker to convert your chaos into divines at the very end. So usually if you see my selling stream, you will see that I have an absolute metric shit ton of chaos that I just all convert at the end, and it's pretty chill overall. So looking at this here, let's say these are Deafenings once again. We just go to our calc, we do 161 times 1.7. Now here comes the important part, right? You're gonna get something out there, 273, and now you just kind of like lowball yourself a little bit. You're gonna say like, I don't know, let's say 259 or 264 or whatever you want to go for, and this will make it so you can sell faster. So for example, here we can say 264, which is the chaos. The one before the slash is always the price behind here. It's a little bit unintuitive, but that's how it is. For 161, boom. Now nobody can whisper you for just 1 or 10 or whatever. They can only whisper you for the full amount. But after that, the 2 other questions I always get asked is number 1, what to upgrade of these essences and what to corrupt. Let's go over the upgrades. So currently, as it stands, you can check this yourself. You should not be upgrading Shrieking Essence of Greed. This is basically universally always true, and you should also not upgrade Shrieking Essences of Dread. The reason for Essence of Greed is that people are making mid-tier gear with life rolls on here, and most people don't want to spend the extra for an extra like 10 life or whatever, or 5 life even, right? Doesn't really make too much sense. Shrieking is really, really good on its own. And the second thing is Shrieking Essence of Dread is mainly used for the +2 level of socketed bow gems. And as you can see, That's the same on the Deafening and on the Shrieking. So no reason to upgrade there, right? And the third one is Loathing, which is currently the highest selling normal essence next to the corrupted ones. Some people are actually boot crafting these with Shriekings because they don't need more than 30% chance to avoid ailments anyways for how their build is set up. So in that case, it just kind of makes sense. You cut a lot of your costs out. So these sell quite good. Everything else I usually put to Shrieking. About the second question, what to corrupt? So you can corrupt essences with remnants of corruption to get these right here, right? Insanity, Horror, Delirium, and Hysteria. So when do you corrupt then? Well, you corrupt Misery, Envy, Dread, and Scorn. You can remember this by meds. Misery, Envy, Dread, Scorn. Maybe you can remember it that way. That's how I do it. And these are basically these purple-ish ones. This one is a little bit more blue, but you can kind of see them quite easily. And those, when corrupted, have a chance to get turned into the more expensive corrupted essences. But there's also a second use case, and that is basically upgrading your Shriekings to Deafenings. Depending on what Shriekings you upgrade, that can be 6 Chaos upgrade, right? For example, Shrieking Essence of Loathing right now is 3 Chaos, and the Deafening is like 9 Chaos. So an upgrade just on one essence is already 6 Chaos. So depending on what you have there, I don't really look too much. You don't really want to just distract yourself all the time. You just want to go, 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 right? Otherwise, it's kind of annoying. My thing is, if I see 3 or more Shriekings, I will corrupt it no matter what. Now, that being said, you want to look out for the essences that also have a Screaming in there. Because the thing that happens if you upgrade is you upgrade all of them, right? Now, if you upgrade all your Shriekings to Deafenings, you don't get to duplicate your essence anymore because now there's no Shrieking anymore. But if you have a Screaming on there, the Screaming will upgrade to Shrieking and the others will upgrade to Deafening. So you will get double Deafening. So those are the ones you want to look out for. So I should write this here as well. +1 Screaming. If you have something like this, you won, and you should definitely use a Remnant. Now, next up, let's talk about Tormented Spirits. These are very elusive. You should decide yourself whether these are worth it. People have already been figuring out this, but there's these compasses. The first 3 possessed monsters drop an additional Gilded Scarab. And what you can do basically is, usually you don't want to play with that because you're not going to wait until a Tormented Spirits goes into a rare, right? That's very cumbersome. But you can use this with Seance to basically guarantee those Gilded Scarabs. And for the last week or so, I've been buying these for 20 to 25 Chaos, which is the point where I have them. And the thing is, if you calc this, right, you have 4 uses. So you get 3 per map, 4 uses, that's 12 Gilded Scarabs. It costed me, let's say, the worst case scenario, 25 Chaos divided by 12. That means every Gilded Scarab costs me on average 2 Chaos, which is completely absurd money. As you guys will know, some of these are really, really expensive. Expedition, something like that, they don't have any waiting, so you just get them, right? Also, one thing to remember is that you can do something like this. For example, if you have a Torment Scarab, right, you can do the vendor recipe. So what you do is you do 2 of the same Gilded, and you sell it with a Horizon. You obviously don't have to do these single in every inventory. You can just put 60 in and then 30 over Horizons, and it's going to turn them all, right? But you do this, and now you have a chance for a better Scarab. In this case, I got the Guild and Legion Scarab, which sells for a lot more. However, this is one of those strats that might be completely invalidated by me sharing it, so do with that what you will. If it's all of a sudden going to be 30 Chaos, 40 Chaos, I don't know, then maybe it's not going to be worth it anymore. That's a judgment you have to put for yourself. All that changes is Seance is on or off. If you're using the Sextants, you use Seance. If you don't, you don't. This is basically some really nice basic income every map, especially if you complete your maps real fast, but it's not going to be a deal breaker if you don't do it. Next up, let's talk about lab trials. So there's currently this thing where upgraded offerings are actually worth quite a bit. I can show you what I mean by that. So Gift to the Goddess right now is around about 170, 180 Chaos. If you actually have them in bulk, you can pretty easily sell them for 200. And what happens here is whenever you open a improved trial, which is the thing you can get here from the Atlas passive nodes, you have a 1 in 3 chance to get that Gift to the Goddess. It is not weighted in any shape or form. There's also Tribute, which is the cheapest one, which costs around about 15 Chaos, which is still decent. And there is also Dedication to the Goddess, which is kind of the mid-tier one, around about 28 C. So if we calc that, we can say that, let's say 28 plus the 180 plus 15, a total of 223, and then it is a 1 in 3 chance, right? So this. So on average, whenever you encounter a upgraded trial, you get on average 74 Chaos. Now, how do you get that upgraded trial? With Trial of Glory here. The thing about this note here is it gives you the chance to get an upgraded trial whenever you would have a normal trial instead, and it's a 1 in 5 chance. Now, I don't know exactly what the base chance is to spawn, but I will assume it's like everything else, 8%. You add the 2 here, we're at 12%, plus the 4 here, we're at 16%. So if we calc that in, we have the 74 times 0.16, right? Then we have 11.8, and then it is a 1 in 5 chance that it is actually an upgraded trial. So we do divided by 5, and then we have 2.37. Now what this number represents is the amount of chaos you will get on average per map just from having these free points allocated. Now, when Subtractum made his video about this strat, which a lot of juicers have been using over the last week or two, there was like a comment where it talked about that's not worth, that's only 2.3 chaos. But I just want to remind you, this is for free points. 3 points on this whole thing. And the thing about these trials is you don't have to go into every single one of them. You can actually see it. I will show it to you in a second, but I'm just baffled. Like, think about it this way, right? Let's divide this by 3. So per point, this is 0.8 chaos. Think about how much you would get out of your Atlas passive tree if every single point was worth 0.8 chaos, right? Let's do the math, times 132. That would mean that whenever you open a map without juice, you get 104 chaos back. And only 1 out of 30 maps, you actually have to go into the trial and clear it. The other times, you're just going to leave it there because it's not an upgraded one. The normal offering is not worth. Now, another thing I want to point out is that we have Shaping the Skies here, which has a 3% chance on completing your map to gain a free use of a special map crafting option. One of those options here is the Improved Lab Trial. So the thing we just said that you have a chance at, this one guarantees it. So this craft, on average, is worth 74 chaos. And I will show you how this looks like in this try here. I'll see you in the map in a second. All right, and this is how it looks like. So you can see here, awards an improved offering to the goddess. Whenever it says improved, you go in. Otherwise, you skip it because it's only going to be a normal offering. It also has this glow around. I think the orange is usually not there. Usually it's just green, right? You go in, you clear it, and at the end, you have a 1 in 3 chance to get 200 chaos. Now, if you cannot be bothered to do one trial every 30 or so maps, I understand that. For example, I'm not doing any heist stuff because I hate selling heist stuff. What I will tell you is I hate these trials, and I've had no problem because they don't happen that often. But when they happen, they have a high chance for a big outcome, right? It's over a divine worth right now, or around about a divine as we speak for the gift to the goddess. So that's a very easy way to get currency on top of everything else. Obviously, it's just a very, very small detail in here, right? Like everything works together. This is just a very small detail, but it can increase your currency per hour. Now, with that said, the map I'm running is Atoll and Defiled Cathedral. If we look at here, we can check Atoll. And so here's the thing, right? Atoll next to it has a few really bad maps. Crimson Township and Cells are disgustingly bad, but it has 2 good ones, which is Defiled Cathedral and Mud Geyser. So you can kind of ping pong between them. The thing I will say is this: if you're more of an AoE kind of build, I would probably go for Mud Geyser. It's a very cozy map if you are. And if you're more of like a projectile-based build or like a straightforward build, like for example, I'm doing my Shield Charge Ignite, I would do Defiled Cathedral. But don't take this from me. If you want to do Mesa and Forking River, that's totally fine. The thing is, I like Mesa a little bit more than Atoll, but Defiled Cathedral and Mud Geyser are actually fine, whereas I absolutely despise Forking River. It's very long. It's not always the same, right? You have to actually think where you're going. I don't know. For me, it's just not worth. I don't like the map at all. So for me, having this shitty second map is not worth getting Mesa over Atoll. With that said, there's a few details in here that I guess I can go over. Once again, don't pick Seance if you're not using the Sextants or the Compasses. It's completely useless otherwise. It's only for that. Now, item quantity and rarity is something that nowadays every build should have. The rarity is now actually important. Number 2, for strats like this, it's always really, really nice to have a little bit of rarity on your gear. For example, I have 2 rarity rings. Maybe you can throw in 1. There's also this mod here that has increased rarity of items dropped by slain rare or unique enemies. You can also craft this one on. It's only 45 if you craft it, I think. That can make quite a bit of difference. On my last build, when I had no rarity whatsoever, I was was not getting a lot of divines from those God Touched mobs. Now I get them regularly. Now, when it comes to Deli, I'm not using anything in particular. I'm just getting a little bit more chance. As you can see here, I'm blocking quite a bit of content, and I'm also using Stream of Consciousness. I'm not using any frags whatsoever. So something like That Which You Seek, right, an extra 4%. Whenever you get a Deli Mirror, you don't really think about getting as many splinters as possible because they're worth almost nothing. Simulacrums are worth, yeah, like nothing. They're like worth 60 chaos for 300 splinters. But the Deli Orbs that you will drop no matter what are actually pretty good. The way Deli Orbs drop are more like per reward, and it doesn't really matter that much how many mobs you killed, so you will get quite a bit of those. Don't invest into it heavily. Definitely don't buy a Sextant or anything like that. It is not worth in the strat. I guess we're also using Singular Focus, which I kind of have to sustain because our maps are rather quick and we aren't really juicing all that much. If you feel like you can do without Singular Focus, go ahead for sure. It will give you more returns. But other than that, there's not really much. I guess I also have the Alva mission here. You don't have to path through here if you don't want to. Oh yeah, and also the altars here. The reason I went with Searing Exarch over Eater of Worlds is simply that my build is too fast to actually wait for the mobs to pop up. So Eater of World mobs are actually quite annoying because they take some time to pop up from the ground. A lot of you guys will already know. That's not too much of a problem if you have like a Legion around you, a Breach around you. You're standing around anyways, but when you're on the move always, like with this strat, it doesn't really do much. Even though Eater of Worlds is on average just more currency, it doesn't work in this strat. Searing Exarch is really, really good as well. Also, I opted out of Wrath of the Cosmos. If you have a super juiced build, that's also really defensive, you can take this. But the thing with Arch Nemesis this patch is the dots are just unbelievable. Like, I can evade most attacks, but when it comes to dots, I can't do anything. I don't have like 4,000 reach per second. And Wrath of the Cosmos just absolutely puts this out of whack and just destroys my build. Obviously, if you can run it, that's also more currency per hour. But overall, yeah, that's it. Basically, just a lot of stuff going on in your maps. You're still trying to complete them really fast. I hope some of the tips that I gave you could help you out, and see you next time. But that's it for the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, subscribe. As always, a huge shout out to my Twitch subscribers and my Patreons. I couldn't do stuff like this without you. Thank you so much for the support. And yeah, this has been quite a blast. I'm going to do this for another 2 days or so to get a little bit more money. We already farmed our Headhunter with the strat, so that's pretty cool. Overall, even if you're not doing the strat, there's a lot of good Alch and Go strategies out there. I'm not going to claim that mine is the best like some other people love to do. This is just what I liked. You can also do stuff like blueprints or whatever if you don't mind selling them. But with that being said, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.